Hello, my name is Nick Matos. I'm the founder of NOLA Social Studios. We do predominantly social media marketing, but marketing in general for businesses in and around the New Orleans metro area.
Cool. Have you ever done a podcast before?
Yeah, but not like in person like this.
Okay.
Like I did one. It was a guy. So the company that I worked for before I started, NOLA Social Studios, they're based in Melbourne, Florida. And there was some guy that did like a local podcast there for photographers.
Okay.
And he was having like an episode about like what marketing and SEO looked like. It was very niche. Like what did SEO look like for photographers?
Right.
And it was like about the specifics about like alt tags and all these different things. It was like super nuanced. And he was based in Daytona, I think. And the lead designer, the lead developer was based in Melbourne for Fueled on Bacon. Yep. And so it was like a triangular approach. Right? He was in Daytona. You know, my guy was in Melbourne and I was here. And we somehow, I don't know what tool we used some tool online that like synced up all of our tracks.
Yeah.
And then made it into an episode.
Cool.
And they put it somewhere. I don't know how it happened. But
was it mostly video or mostly audio rather?
Just audio.
Just audio.
Yeah. No video.
Yeah. I think now tons of people are using Zoom. I know you said we were just talking about you're not the biggest fan of Zoom, but I'm seeing more and more people utilize Zoom as a way to get guests in that would normally not, be able to make a trip into studio area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I think one of the cool things too is like although Zoom is not my preferred, tool of choice, like companies like that are like becoming so accessible now to everybody for all types of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because people need it. Companies need that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's a massive move for, businesses to completely adopt this work from home thing.
Yeah.
Which for some industries are working far better than they did when people had to make the commute into an office.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see that, and then also see how cities like LA and New York are kind of emptying out of the normal day-to-day workers. It's
nuts, man. Like I used to live in LA before I lived here.
Yeah.
And I try to like imagine like what my life would have been like in LA.
Had you stayed?
In just the COVID situation.
Yeah.
Where like you're at home. Like people don't stay home in LA.
No.
I try to like I was never home when I lived in LA.
Yeah.
Even when I had to be, I was like, man, I gotta get out of here.
Well, that was kind of I have a buddy who's out in New York. Or he was out in New York. Now he's in Italy. But he was saying that in New York, there's so many people and so little area to live that you would have like a little tiny house,
right?
Like a 300 square foot,
which is nuts,
which is ridiculous.
It's like
compared to out here.
It's like this office, basically.
Yeah, but all you needed was like a place to hold some of your things, a bed, maybe like
a futon,
like a microwave area,
right?
And that's really all you needed because most of your day was spent
out.
At an office or out at, a restaurant or something.
Right.
And now nobody can do that.
Right.
Well, I mean, now it's starting to ease up, but initially nobody was able to do anything.
No.
And so, yeah, you had a ton of people who were hanging out on their roofs and...
I know what you're talking about. You've seen that. There's like this, I think it was in New York, it was like a guy that captured people on the roof, like dancing, during different times and stuff, and the amount of things that people are doing now to stay like busy and just like creative or just like not be in their house. People are going to like such extreme lengths to just like get out of their space.
Yeah. Of course.
People are getting crazy out here.
COVID, the new normal.
I know, right?
Yeah. So how have you been as owner founder of NOLA Social Studios?
Good, man. So it's been interesting. So this whole idea and what the agency, how it came to be and what it is now is like totally a result of COVID. Mm-hmm. Before this happened in March, I was working at this agency, and because of certain situations with the client base or whatever, it didn't work out anymore.
Yeah.
And they had to cut us because they just weren't making enough money.
Yeah.
And so they completely
pull the sucker right up to your face.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
They completely like cut their staff.
Yeah.
Right. And so I needed a quick job.
Yeah.
And so I was working at Commander's Palace.
Okay.
Over on Washington, which was like, I've never worked in a restaurant before, and it was actually really funny because I was already wearing like a sports coat and like dress shoes or whatever. And I was driving around and I thought to myself, I got an email that was like from my company like, hey, we have to let you go. I was like, man, what am I gonna do? And I pulled up to Commander's Palace before like the dinner shift, and I told like the maitre d', I was like, I have an interview. And he was like, okay, cool, but yeah, come right along. And I didn't have an interview, didn't really know. Yeah. And they sat me out in the courtyard, and the manager comes out and is like, okay, so do you have a resume? And I was like, no, but I have a meeting. Like, I'm here for my meeting. Yeah. And like, yeah, we'll do your meeting. Don't worry. I'm like, okay, perfect. And they asked me what restaurant experience I have, and like, I don't have any restaurant experience. Like, I work in marketing. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, okay, well, are you going to be here? I can work and this and that. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And they bring out the second manager, and he sits down and interviews me, and he's like takes his glasses off and is like, so you've never been in a restaurant? I'm like, never. He's like, but you're here now. Like you just walked in, right? You didn't really have a meeting. And I was like, no, I didn't. But I need a job today. And they were like, you're hired, man. Like,
yeah, dude, like
come in tomorrow.
The balls to do that is ridiculous. Right on.
It was nuts. And I didn't really think it was going to work. And, I had, my knowledge of Commander's Palace before that was like, this is a super, well-oiled machine of a restaurant. Like, you go there and you're going to work. And, dude, it worked out. And then COVID happened, and I lost that. This was like before Mardi Gras. Yeah. And then COVID happened March 16th or 15th. It was that Monday. Mm-hmm. And they were like, yeah, well, we got to let you go. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. 2 weeks later, I was trying to think like, man, what can I do with my skill set and my knowledge base to help like my community? Because like, in the agency world, you do things with the idea of like, oh, you're helping businesses, right? Like, you're helping an entrepreneur, you're helping, at least that's my thought process, mm-hmm. right? I have this skill set because this business person needs to like make money for their family and their employees and, benefit somebody. And so I was thinking to myself, like, how can I do this now when people need it more than ever? And so I created this like kind of like hyper local idea of a marketing agency at an extremely discounted price compared to like some of the bigger agencies here. And, I have a pretty unique like skill set as far as SEO goes. And so in like a week or 2 weeks, we were on the first page of Google on like different directories. And then the phone calls just started coming in and the emails started coming in and, the Instagram messages. And before I knew it, I had a client base and, was getting inquiries and all these different things. And it's been okay. It's been pretty good. And because of like the way that we have our website set up, we get about, anywhere between 4 and 5 new like, inquiries and like kind of proposal situations a week, which is awesome.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick. And, it doesn't really take a lot of like initial work on my end to like.
Because you set it up with the CEO.
Set it up.
SEO.
Set it up. And so that's like one of the initial things that we talk about like with our clients is like, I ask them, okay, like, well, how did you find us? And they're like, oh, wait, we Googled it. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay. Now imagine if somebody Googled for your thing and like you came up. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool, right? And they're like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, well, that's what we do, man. Like, let's do it.
Passive.
Let's do it.
Passive influx of new business.
And it's super easy then to like, now that business owner in layman's terms understands like what happened, how he got to me, and how I can do that for him or her. And like, it's an easy transition.
So real quick, pretend like I didn't know what SEO is. Can you explain that to me in a way that makes sense?
Okay, so I would just say like, when you need to find a coffee shop, mm-hmm. like what do?
Google it.
You Google it.
Yeah.
That's SEO.
Yeah.
That's it. And anything, and it doesn't have to be Google. It could be Bing. Mm-hmm. Instagram is a search engine. So SEO stands for, for all of our people that are listening.
Right.
SEO stands for search engine optimization, right? So anything with a search engine, you can have SEO, right?
Right.
Twitter has it, Instagram has it, Facebook has it, Yelp has it. Any of these things where you have to like actually search something is like it. And so the way that I have like kind of, because SEO is hard to describe almost, because there is way more to it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And there's agencies that just do SEO and they get like 12-month contracts with people, and it's very important. But that's the best way to break it down. Is like if somebody has to search for you, you need SEO.
Yeah.
And if people don't know who you are, that's another thing too. Is like if people don't know who you are, then they have to search for you. Then you need SEO.
Well, that's kind of one of the things I've noticed in this area. So. I know you work with mainly New Orleans, but also the greater New Orleans area, which includes St. Bernard Parish. Within this parish, there's just shy of 50,000 people, representing, and this is a massive guesstimate, but like maybe 1,200, maybe 1,500 companies, businesses. Most of those businesses don't exist. They don't live on, Judge Perez or Chalmette Highway or Paris Street, which is where most people are driving on their daily commute. So if they don't exist on one of these three streets, if they don't have the signs up, how do you find them? How do you know that they're a thing?
Right.
And that's kind of what, when I first moved down here, I noticed that's the marketing in this area is not the best. It's a lot of that old school, like the grandfather type
word of
marketing,
mouth type stuff,
which is great,
right?
Especially for this community is still small, relatively speaking,
right? And
so that works. But especially now in times of COVID, when people aren't driving around as often as they did before, or when they're you're stressed out, you're not looking at signs while you're driving on the street. You're looking at You're thinking about,
so many things.
The world, yeah. And so a lot of these businesses are suffering.
Right.
How do you start changing minds in a way that's like, hey, you can exist on the internet as visibly or more as you would if you had a massive sign at the corner of Paris and Judge Perez.
Right. I think like one of the better ways to like try and so in communities like this, I think, where it's pretty small and like, there might not be a lot of foot traffic in terms of like brick and mortar foot traffic, like anyway, I think sometimes there can be like an unknown fear almost. Like, oh my, like, yeah, if we advertised or if we did like, some robust marketing, people would come in. But like, could we like sustain that?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like same thing with like stores when they buy too much inventory and they don't sell it. Right. Then there's like a fear associated with that. Yeah. Right.
Money loss.
Right.
Losing out on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that businesses, in order to like prepare for that, they need to like, think in a like a vertical strategy or like a growth, put themselves in a growth mindset and imagine like if it wasn't just word of mouth and if it wasn't just, by people passing you and them being curious, right? And people were coming in because, you make the best, red beans and rice around and nobody knew about it except for people that, live here and know about it, right? Then people would be coming in all the time. And in order to like to grow that and to expand that, you can sustainably, figure out the solutions as a learning. There's a learning curve, of course, but that comes with just being a business owner. And so like by making that and by taking those first steps, you I guess like what it comes down to is you don't really know until you do it. Right. You don't really know how marketing is going to work until you do it. You don't really know how scaling and growing is going to go until you try.
Right.
And so especially businesses like out here and like some of the smaller like mom and pop shops that we work with, there is that kind of like fear or whatever. But that's one of the benefits of working with like a marketing company is that there's somebody that's there to like to kind of guide you through that.
Yeah.
Because like my entire industry is based on scale or trying to scale, right? And so there's sustainable ways of handling that. They just have never been done before for the most part. And so, you know, there's what I have found is like there's a more hand holding, like bigger learning curve as far as like that goes. And there's a lot of like overcoming those fears. And it's tough because like I said before, it might not have been done before.
Right.
But there's so many people that, especially now, like people are looking for things because they just want to know.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think what people realize is like, if I'm trapped in this area, right? If I'm stuck and I don't really want to go anywhere else, I need to find what's around me.
Yeah.
Right. And like people, I'm finding out new things about my neighborhood every day that I didn't know about. And a lot of it is because of SEO or the ad that I saw or the billboard that I didn't look at before. You know, there's this new pepper jelly ad that I saw, this billboard right across the street from my house. And I've tried it and it's amazing. And it's just a local pepper jelly.
Pepper jelly, what's that?
It's like, I don't even know how to describe it, truly. You know, like jam, like strawberry jam?
Right.
Imagine that, but with peppers.
Okay.
I don't know if that's right. You know, someone might be watching and tell me I'm wrong. But that's kind of like how I described it.
Yeah.
But I put it on a bunch of different things like toast and stuff. Like it's just like a nice savory, thing.
Okay.
But I would have never known about it.
Yeah.
Until I like walked around my neighborhood and like saw this, And before COVID, that ad wasn't there. I don't remember that ad or seeing that billboard, right? And the easiest way I think to just kind of jump in is just to jump in.
Yeah.
You just got to do it.
Yeah. And even if you were to start, on the base level, the base of the base, without, getting a hold of, I think a marketing company is great. And I think I would definitely recommend it for an established business. But for a new, sole entrepreneur who's starting out,
like bootstrapping it.
Yeah. What would be the best way to get into like early online?
So many things. And so like that, so it's interesting that you bring that up, right? So typically like we take our clients like there's like a Q&A process, like an interview process almost, because there are so many free tools.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna you shouldn't pay me to do something if you could do it for free. Right. And I have no problem like having like a consultation session, like multiple consultation sessions with people to like get them to do this for free just to understand it.
Yeah.
Right. I think like in the majority of like, small business owners, it's like, maybe a couple people team, right? They probably have a website on like Squarespace.
Okay.
They probably have a website on like Wix or something, or their Google website, like any of those different things, right? That's maybe a good place to start for like a website. And all of these tools for website building, they all have like SEO integrations where you can like just draft those things up, and they have great tutorials. Like that's the easiest way to start with it from an SEO perspective to be found. The Nolo Social Studios website is a Squarespace website.
Yeah.
And
I think so is the St. Bernard Chamber.
Yeah. It's just, it makes it so, I'm not a tech guy as far as like building like websites and stuff, like coding, forget about it. But, how is it that I could have such a simple tool like Squarespace and show up on the first page of Google in a, pretty highly trafficked area?
Yeah.
It's just because of the simple steps they took to do that.
Yeah.
The only thing it costed me was my monthly Squarespace submission or subscription, but even that's like less than $20.
Yeah. No.
And so that's a great place to start right there. Another free, just, you do this on a daily basis, social media.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that.
Yeah.
A lot of like the first, couple of clients that we had was just because of Instagram.
Yeah.
Before we even had the website,
Yeah.
Just
I think that's how we connected.
That's exactly how we connected.
Yeah.
And so that's the simplest way to do it. And it's because of, hashtagging, using the appropriate hashtags. And a lot of people think that hashtagging is like really like, man, I'm not giving away. I feel like I'm giving away like secrets, right? Like when I talk to clients, I say that hashtagging is strategic, and it is, but it is still very simple.
Yeah.
Like you can put, a search into the search bar on Instagram, and it'll tell you the relevant hashtags related to that.
Yeah.
And if you use those, you're probably in a good place.
Yeah.
And as long as you're using those, you'll get found because people are looking for it, you know? And especially like in our local area, when you open the explore page on Instagram, like you get things that are local to you anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just comes up because it knows.
Yeah.
And so just like, changing the putting your address on your Instagram page is a huge plus.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a hashtag on your profile, on your bio, huge plus. You just get found more. Posting on a regular basis, once a day, twice a day, depending, right? Like, we try to do like at least once a day, or at least we tell our clients once a day or once every other day, at least. And if you can't sustain that, then, there's other issues that need to be discussed. But that's, the simplest, easiest way to do it. Then there are other ways that you can like go about it that are low dollar, right? And those things are all very important, but all those things start to compile almost. And again, there's a lot of like the fear of the unknown, right?
Of course.
When you have so many, I can totally see, a small business owner getting overwhelmed because there's so many tools that they feel like they need to have, and they're all dialing up, and all these tools, they're trying to get you to spend more and like hit a different bar. And before you know it, you feel like you're paying so much, but you don't have to do all those things. SEO is free.
Yeah.
The website costs money, sure, but the SEO and the strategy that goes into it is free.
Well, yeah. So that's when I talk to clients, when I talk to anybody who will listen to me talk about their business, right? The first two things I say are create a Facebook page, create a website. Those are your spaces. Those are your pillars. You control everything that happens on your website. You control 80% of the things that you see on your Facebook. Everything else can connect to that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you post on your website, you can copy out, repost to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter, to LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't have control over those other things for the most part.
Right.
Most social media, areas, you don't really have all that much control. You have 100% control of your website.
Yep.
So start there.
Yep.
That's where people want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
If people are looking for an ad, your specials, say if you're a retailer who has a sale going on, they're going to go to your Facebook or your website. So having those be, the central hub of all of your online presence, and then having all that shared out to things like Instagram, where, most of us younger folks will go to Instagram before we go to Facebook, of course.
Right.
But I think the majority of this community are, old heads, which is cool.
Right. But what's interesting though is that like young people I find are on Facebook for very specific niche group things.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you how like wildly popular like food pages are, like food groups on Facebook. People love to be a part of a food group.
Yeah.
So if you're like a restaurant in this area, all you have to do is just get in one of those food groups and like post your menu.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's free 99.
Yeah.
It doesn't get easier than that.
Yeah.
And then like Instagram too. I mean, just take a like a decent, well lit picture of your food. People will come.
Yeah.
One of like my most successful clients is a restaurant that hasn't even opened yet. And I mean, the amount of attention that they get from their pictures is wild.
Yeah.
People are all about it. Marketing for restaurants is one of the easiest ways to level up.
So easy. One of the best social media presences I see, one of the best online presences I see in the St. Bernard area is Brewster's.
Oh yeah.
And I know Jessica, she'll take a photo with, an iPhone of, one of her plates. She'll dress it up a little bit, take a photo, put it on Instagram.
So
and
easy.
People are attracted to that. People see that and they go, "Oh, I want that."
Yeah.
And then she can post that same photo on, her website and Facebook and, wherever anybody happens to be looking. And people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna go into Brewster's today.
I'm gonna go there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's easy.
The easiest. And so like there are so many things though that are not like, so food is easy, right? Because we all love food. Right. Who doesn't love food?
Of course.
But there's like, then you get like the mortgage company, right? How do they advertise on social media? Are people like on Instagram looking for mortgages? Like no, probably not. And the way that I talk about this sometimes is like, it's like going to the beach, right? Like I go to the beach to like get a tan, like, you know, get in the water, maybe eat some fruit, maybe, right? I'm not going to the beach to buy a tire.
No.
You know? I feel like you need to know your platforms based on what people are looking for. Right. Go to the places that you know people are there to maybe look for, right? A mortgage company, I wouldn't say maybe get an Instagram account and like put all your dollars behind Instagram.
Right.
Like spend all your time taking pictures of what?
Yeah.
I don't know. But like you could join a Facebook group about real estate.
And be active in that Facebook group.
Be super active.
Yeah.
Right? You could create your own Facebook group.
Yeah.
Right? About the tips and tricks and the real estate statistics in this area.
Yeah.
About that.
You build yourself up to be that expert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you just do it, the cool thing about Instagram, or not Instagram, but like social media in general, is that if you just say enough, people just believe you.
Yeah. 100%.
Like becoming a thought leader on social media has never been easier.
That was part of my intention with this podcast, with this. So I have my own podcast company as well. And we've got our own podcast as well, but I work with clients and set them up as the experts in their fields.
Right.
If people are listening to your content, they're learning things from you.
You're the expert.
You are the most, well-knowleded person that they know.
You are the one.
You are the one. They will go for you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that it's just crazy. It's crazy the tools that people have available to them now. To not just the tools, but the tools that make it able to like hone your topics and your content to like an audience of one. That's what it's all about. You know, like spewing generalities about stuff, like, you know, it's a little bit harder to like really make someone feel something, right? But if you're the mortgage company and you're talking about interest rates every single day, there's people that are there to look for interest rates, and they'll feel like you're talking to them.
Yeah.
In whatever form it's in, podcast, blog, you know, ad, Instagram post, Facebook post, whatever it is. It's about getting into that audience of one. Talk to that one person. They'll see it. Somebody will see it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they'll be your one.
And the more you talk about it, the more your name is out there in connection with whatever that is. Every time you comment on somebody's Facebook profile, hey, I need help with X, Y, and Z, and you go, I got the answer for that. Let me put that there.
Bingo.
Google picks that up.
Yep.
And so if people go, you know, Chalmette mortgage rate something, and you've got this, boom, first thing is your comment on somebody's Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes up so easy.
Yeah.
And people love that.
It's free.
And it's free. I mean, it's so free.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more free than that.
Yeah. Just a little time as opposed to money.
Right.
But I think that's what, when you're talking about when you're talking about anything in business related,
right,
you're talking about time.
Right.
And so that's when you've got a small business who's running, you know, say you've got a restaurant that's knocking out like a 10-hour service period, and they're working at their oven all day, or at their stoves, you know, they're cooking all day, and they can't do the social media, or they're doing like, you know, they're doing maybe an hour a day, not even taking a photo, posting it up, one 15-minute section a day.
Right.
You're getting tons of interest coming in there, and then you start growing, and then you don't really have time for a more diverse, you know, time to put in a more diverse, you know, spectrum of social media things out there. You can't post to everything every day.
Right.
That's when you go for someone like yourself,
right,
who can then, you know, narrow down and just like knock this stuff out for you.
Exactly. Yeah. I like to think of myself sometimes as almost like a personal assistant.
Yeah.
or an executive assistant almost, right? Like entrepreneurs and businesses that have kind of like maxed out their free tools and maxed out their time, right? Like all they need is like a reallocation of time.
Yeah.
You know, and they can do that via a company like me.
Right.
Right. Or like any other local companies that do this.
Right.
Right. And I can't stress enough, like I think how important it is for like for a small to mid-sized business in a local area, like going with a local company for that is so important.
Of course.
You know, like you just never when you buy like a subscription or a service like this from like a bigger company that's like based in, you know, LA or something, like, dude, they have no idea what's going on here.
All of their information about you comes from your telephone calls, your emails, your website, your online presence now.
Yes.
Which is why you're getting a hold of them in the first place to supplement.
Yeah. That would be like a huge recommendation that I would have for like anybody in this area is like, once you've maxed out your free tools, just go local.
Yeah.
Right. And going local isn't just about like your restaurants or, you know, your shops or whatever. Like there's companies here that do all these things that are local. There's local advertising agencies. There's local SEO companies. There's local copywriting companies, like all types of stuff that you could maybe need help with, all local. And that stuff that's key. Yeah. Another free thing that I want to talk about quick is just like the power of blogging.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think blogging is one of the most slept on things about marketing in general. Yeah. Because people think it takes like so much time, but it just takes like I think it just, more than anything, it just takes a different thought process. Yeah. Right. It's just about like, just writing like a quick, like 500 word, you know, essay, I guess essay was what you'd call it, an article almost, about like something in particular in this area. That's all it takes. And like that stuff gets found on Google. Those things just get read automatically. That's one of the simplest things, one of the easiest things to do, aside from social media and like your SEO stuff. Just blog, write a blog.
So that kind of supplements SEO, right? Because the search engine, Google, Bing, Yahoo, they'll scroll through and read all of that information, and then pump it up to their magical cloud that then sends you out to other people, and people see. Say you're talking about refineries and, things about how, a refinery can help local business X, Y, and Z. And then Google will pop that up. Yep. Yeah. You start thinking about refinery. And now there's kind of that like that naughty little, I won't say naughty, that scary thing that people are talking about where they're talking about, You'll talk about a broom or something, and then you'll see it on Instagram and you'll see it on Facebook. My phone is definitely listening to me. Kind of, yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Kind of. And so if you're talking about,
But like, aren't you happy about it though? Like
because it's like
you were talking about a broom. Yeah. Like, here you go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always like pro AI, pro.
Oh yeah.
But I get it's scary. I get it's kind of like a invasion of privacy. Right. So I understand that. But you can take advantage of that for your own business as well, because it's going to be there. You're not gonna policy it out. You're not going to. No. There's no way to like shut it down. Even if you shut it down, right? Your spouse, your children, right? Your parents will be taking advantage of that, and it's connected to you. And so
I can understand like being wary of like AI and stuff like that from a personal perspective. Yeah. Me personally, no, but I get somebody who does. But for your business, it's a tool. Yeah. And you should be leveraging all the tools that you can, like, and this is maybe like something that's a little bit different than what we were talking about before, but like the retargeting aspect of advertising, like the remarketing strategies that go into, websites and the things that you can do with that, the touch points that you can make through this, like these tools and these like weird things, like they make such a difference. Yeah. Like I can't even tell you, half the ads I see on like Instagram or Facebook are from a website that I was on that day. Yeah. And it's just like, how did that happen? Yeah. And then I know how it happens, but like those companies are also betting on, okay, if you were on the website once and you see an ad, like you'll probably come back. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
You know, and like the statistics on remarketing data is so important.
Yeah.
And like half of the like advertising like plans or like, you know, campaigns that we run for our clients are rooted only in getting to the remarketing standpoint.
Yeah.
All right. Let's build this audience up enough to remarket. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Especially for like a local, for like a hyper localized like thing. Like, you know, whether you're in, you know, Orleans Parish, St. Bernard Parish, or any other area or county anywhere else, like you have such a hyper local window of like people that are automatically more interested in you just because they live by you.
Yeah.
For them to come to your website, then get served an ad, you have like built now brand loyalty and brand trust to a degree that you probably weren't ever going to be able to.
You're far less scary to them than like Clorox bleach.
Boom.
Massive company.
Boom.
Or Budweiser, massive company.
Exactly.
If
Exactly.
it's Brewster's down the street, if it's Crave, if it's something local, I guess they're not completely different. They are completely different industries, but the idea still stands.
Yeah.
If you get, you know, a recommendation from someone local, you're like, yeah,
I'm gonna take it. It's closer.
Yeah.
It's way closer. You don't have to work as hard for it. You don't have to like really think about it too in depth. Like, I'll drive by that easy, you know? And like, I feel like advertising in general is like something that's kind of like a scary thing to some businesses because it's like,
money.
It's money,
Yeah.
but like, am I going to get an ROI off this?
Yeah.
Right. But like advertising, the way that I see it is like, it's more about like building brand awareness,
Yeah.
building brand trust, building brand loyalty.
Yeah.
Right. And like the type of like advertising strategies that we, you know, typically like, you know, operate under or use or like, you know, ads that like point to a blog, right? Because if you can advertise to someone effectively and get them to see your ad and get them to see an ad, one that you maybe know they're interested in because of like demographical data or whatever the case, and then point them to a blog that talks about this thing that they already are interested in. Again, it's that audience of one.
Yeah.
Like you're that person now for them.
Yeah.
Because they looked for it, they found you.
Yeah.
And they went to a blog. You like answered their question. Why would they look for anybody else? They wouldn't. You're the one.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like just like that's a win.
Yeah.
You have a potential customer. You have a potential client, like right there.
Yeah.
And because of again these tools, you know, it's free to see this analytics. You know, like Google Analytics, hooking Google Analytics up to your Squarespace website, free.
Free. Yeah.
Super free. And then you get to see what that return on investment was.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like it's so simple to operate under these things. The difficult thing is like you said, like the guy who's, you know, at his restaurant cooking all day.
Mm-hmm.
He's not thinking about this stuff.
No.
You know? He's not thinking about this stuff.
His expertise doesn't lie in this. So,
No.
Yeah.
And I've worked for agencies before where it's like our target customer is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to get that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's hard to get that guy to sign up. It's hard to get that person to like opt in because they're cooking, right? I worked for a company in Los Angeles that targeted auto shop owners. The auto shop owner is fixing a car right now.
Right.
Like he's not going to answer the phone
No.
to talk to me about SEO.
No.
You know? So you have to like figure out a way, how do I target him?
Yeah.
Right? I'll show an ad in his area
Yeah.
to a blog about, you know, auto stuff,
Yeah.
right?
And that goes the other way too, right?
Exactly. That's what I was literally just about to say.
The mechanic is in the office working. He doesn't have time to pick up the phone every time you have a question about auto mechanic
Right.
related things. So if he's got the Facebook page or the website with, you know, 10 ways to
The blog, man.
10 ways to do X, Y, or Z.
Answered.
People see that, maybe you've answered their question, cool. But then you've also got a touch, right?
Boom.
And so use that touch to go, hey, by the way, if you need somebody to do this for you, because you know you're you know some cat at home who doesn't have the tools or the time to do this, come to us, we'll do it for you.
Easy.
And there's absolutely no work on your end as the, you know, mechanic in the garage outside of, you know, a 20-minute session just typing up something cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm glad that you said that. Like, that's literally all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, wake up an hour earlier, and spend 20 minutes writing your blog while you heat up like your breakfast.
Yeah.
Right. At night before you go to bed, spend 30 minutes drafting up pictures. Use stock photography.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing wrong with stock photography.
No.
Every website uses stock photography. Most, yeah. All the ones that are like trying to like get started or whatever, like that maybe don't have it.
Yeah.
Stock photography.
Definitely.
And that stuff is free too.
Yeah.
And then you can alt tag that stuff and use SEO tools to like, now this random stock photography like picture that you have, right, which before this had no association with you, now points to your website and your business. Like, come on, man, that's easy.
It's easy.
It's so easy.
I think part of the problem is to really fully appreciate this, you need to be somewhat knowledgeable in it. And I think most of these businesses locally are just not aware of it.
Right.
Like, you don't know, you need to be checked for, some kind of like dental thing, unless you are really into dental things.
Right.
And your dentist isn't going to tell you about it unless you have it.
Right.
And by that point, it's too
late.
Too late.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, getting you here to talk about this stuff is like, let's open people up to the idea.
Right.
And then get them to appreciate it enough to reach out to one of us. Because, one of the things I wanted to do when I first started here was to work on people's marketing, because that's kind of work on people's branding. I'm a branding specialist. I'm not the best at marketing. Right. I think that's I'm terrible at my own marketing, which is also the reason why somebody should reach out to you, is because what do they say? As you can't see the composition from within the picture frame. Right. It's really hard to see, everything that you're lacking when you're doing it. Right. When you're there every day, which is why people get secret shoppers to come in and look at their, business, to look at it from the outside and be like, okay, this is, you've got somebody at the front desk who's not warm and receptive, and that's knocking out, 20% of your potential business. Right. And so that's kind of the same thing with, your website. You'll have a website and you're like, somebody told me I needed a website, so I made a website. Somebody told me I needed a Facebook page, so I made a Facebook page. One.
But is it good?
Is it working? Is it doing what I need it to do? Yes. It's free, so I'm not paying for it. For a Facebook, you're paying for your website, of course. Right. But you need a website, because that's how people are going to get a hold of you. Exactly. And you know that. Right. It's like a phone plan. Cool. Mm-hmm. But then, how do you take advantage of that? And so you come in. One of the things, like I was saying, one of the things I wanted to do was to get, some of our chamber members in here, to sit them down and to audit their online presence. Right. And then to say, this is the areas where you're lacking, and I can show you some, free tools to do this, or I can hand you off to this cat over here who knows this stuff way better than I do. Right. And he'll do it for you. Right. And then you can spend more of your time doing
what you want to do,
things that you need to do to build your business,
things that you're good at. Yeah. Ultimately.
Yeah. Spend a little money to make way more money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like a thing too, man. Talking, and I think, again, this is an interesting thing. So many roads converging here, right? Like, I know this, but I don't really think about it or talk about it enough. And I think business owners know this and don't talk about it enough too. But there's this, so many of these fears associated with these different things, like fear of not having enough, or fear of marketing, just being one of the things that kills me, I hate the word marketing spend. Yeah. When people say it's a spend, it's an ad spend. Mm-hmm. These things are investments. Yeah. And you want to invest it properly, just like anything else. Right. Because the goal is to make a return. Yeah. The goal is to put money in to get more out. Yeah. Same with stocks, same with real estate, same with anything.
Same with employees.
Oh my God, yeah. So important. Yeah. And it's just if, using these different words, even with clients, changes the perspective. Yeah. changes the way that like you can think about it,
Yeah.
right? You should be excited about advertising. You should be excited about marketing because the goal is to make more money.
Yeah.
The goal is to grow.
The goal is to
should
get more
be
people,
more people.
more eyes on you.
Yeah. More traffic in general. Traffic to the if you have an online shop, more traffic to the website.
Yeah.
If you have a brick and mortar, more traffic to the store.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
If you're talking about marketing and you're just like stressed about your budget and stressed about this, it probably is not the right time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or maybe it's the perfect time to pivot. I think that's to pivot your mindset on it. If you're struggling with money, 100% I get it, especially right now with, COVID and people not wanting to spend money and people unable to get to you, or people because of, policies are unable to, take part in whatever you're selling. 100% understand. Maybe it's time for a different way of thinking about your own business. How can, for example, a lot of these local businesses, when it first popped off, when, COVID first dropped.
Right. First dropped.
Yeah. A bunch of businesses shut their doors, and a lot of restaurants shut their doors because they specialized in dine-in service.
Of course.
And then a bunch of them within that week started to say, like, curbside pickup, let's do this, or to go. There's DoorDash, there's what's the other one?
There's
Uber Eats.
Uber Eats is a waiter.
There's a local guy, Roadrunner, I think it's Roadrunner Express.
Yep.
Who will pick this food up and take it to your house, and can drop it off in the front of your, in front of your door.
Right.
Touchless, and you've got things like,
right there.
PayPal and, all these things where you can pay without cards, And that was a quick pivot. And it was harder, of course. It takes a little more time. You don't get the same profit margin.
No.
But you're still alive. You're still working. You're still able to employ people. Maybe you switch their roles around. But maybe that's what you need to do. It's the same idea with with your social media, right? Maybe people aren't able to drive by your sign. Maybe people aren't going to your Facebook page. Maybe that's because you're not taking part in,
the other avenues.
The other avenues. One of the things we did was we started a website, or it was a page on our website that every business, every local restaurant that was still open, we would list them, and we would say, this is their website, this is the time that they're open, this is their phone number. You can go right to this website and click and call and order some food, and then go pick it up. And a lot of these businesses, local businesses, didn't take part in that, which is fine. I also didn't do the best job marketing it because I'm not a great marketer. But the companies that did were able to
leverage that.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, it's a roundabout way of saying this is the same sort of thing you can do with your website, with your social media, is to say, we've got 3 employees. Let's get one more employee. And instead of paying them, minimum wage, $25,000 a year, let's pay them $1,000 a year just to focus on social media stuff. Let's pay them $2,000. Let's invest this money to get more people to understand that we're still open, that we're still doing what you will need us to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing too. Like, and the word is like, in the importance of it is the pivot, right? And the pivoting that needs to happen.
Right.
If you're advertising a bunch and now money's tight because people are not buying or whatever, you don't have to spend any more money on advertising. You can spend your money, or rather save your money, and blog for free.
Yeah.
Or post on Instagram, or post on Twitter, or post on Facebook, right? But you have to keep doing something. You have to keep moving. And so, again, like when you're in the business and when you're working on your business and when it's real life for you, and these things are all concerns, you probably don't see that. But just most marketing companies have like a you can do a free consultation session with them.
Right.
They will tell you, you know what I mean? They're just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And they'll see it because they're not in it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just being aware of the changes that need to happen is, I think, hard sometimes.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. But it's the key to keeping things moving.
Yeah.
You know? Definitely.
Especially in 2020.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what brought you here? Why New Orleans? Hard pivot.
It's so
why
weird.
New Orleans?
It's such a weird story. I feel like I have to give the whole story.
Okay.
So I was born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
Until I was 18. When I turned 18, I went to Florida State University in Tallahassee, the capital of Florida, way north, super north. And my goal with going to Florida State was to become or to work in politics in some way.
Okay.
That was like my dream. And I that was founded in like being in Model United Nations for a long time and debating and being involved in like local politics in Miami and like, wanting to make change. That's like one of the things that has guided me in life in general is like, how can I make change for people? How can I help people? That's like been one of my main like life tenets almost. And then I actually like got into politics. And I was like, this is tough. I'll never forget. I was like a freshman in college and, we're at the Capitol and I got an internship at the Capitol. And, man, it was not at all what I thought it was going to be like. It's just so different. When you're in college and in your classes, everything is theory based. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get an A in theory, but like, how are you going to perform when it happens? Mm-hmm. And my ideals about like the way to help people, are very different than the way politicians handle things and the way like companies handle things. It's very, very different than what we're like taught and shown. And so I thought to myself, man, I can't do this. A lot of it felt very dishonest, almost like very weird. And so I thought to myself, like, okay, well, how can I still help people? Like, how can I make, citywide or like local neighborhood based change without being a politician? Mm. And so I started a nonprofit in Florida, in Tallahassee called Culture. And it was an art-based nonprofit with the intention and the goal of decreasing crime in Leon County. Okay. That was like our mission. Yeah. And we did this by hosting and collaborating with local artists, local businesses, and just like people, just the people in that neighborhood. The two main like areas that we've worked in and with were a small area called Frenchtown and another area called Southside Monroe in Tallahassee. And it was so much fun and so great. And I got to work with like, entrepreneurs in these areas that are like going through a lot of things that we just talked about, right? Trying to figure things out, wanting more traffic, but they're not, maybe they felt like they weren't in a great area, right? Every area is great. Every part of town is great. It has something that's amazing about it. There's people there that are great, that are interesting and interested in all types of different stuff. Mm-hmm. And so they got to a point, I think it was about 2 years of doing Culture, and we had a working strategic partnership with Florida State University and with the planning department of the city of Tallahassee. And then my girlfriend and I got jobs in Los Angeles, and we moved. And we tried to make this huge company pivot where it was going to be headquartered in Tallahassee. I was going to be like operating, but also manning the Los Angeles branch. And our vice president was international. He was in the Netherlands, and he was going to be doing the Netherlands branch. We started as this small, local city, Tallahassee, nonprofit. And now we were like going to somehow become like an international nonprofit. And it didn't work, right? Of course, it's hard. It couldn't. It was too hard of a pivot. And so I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm living in Los Angeles, and I worked for this co-working space, and it was not, again, my thought process in working in the co-working space was, okay, I can rationalize this because I'm working with business people still who need help, who need office space, who need like peace of mind, who need like a nice fun place to like have their employees, and this is their office. Yeah. Make it fun. And I was the community manager, and so that was like my whole goal. Not the case. You know, business people in LA are less concerned about how fun the office is, and like more concerned about other little nuanced things that I didn't have any control over, and I couldn't help. I wasn't helping really, you know. And then I got fired like 2 weeks before Christmas. I got fired in 2017, I think. Yeah, and I was unemployed in LA. And I was trying to think like, which is horrible. You don't want to be unemployed in LA.
Oh yeah, no.
You don't want to be unemployed anywhere because, you know, bills are very real, and, you know, there's not a lot of policy changing the way these things happen.
Yeah.
But being unemployed in LA was horrifying. And I got this job at a SEO agency, and I was helping auto shop owners with their SEO and getting more business for them, which is perfect because I was getting back on track to like helping people, kind of. You know, I could, you know, twist those words to make it seem like I'm helping.
Of course.
And so
perspective.
Right. Yeah. And so, but I hated LA. I hated living in LA because I had a horrible experience in LA. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing anything I could to get out. And one of the people that I worked with, he was the CTO of the co-working space I worked for. We both went to Florida State, so we had like a bond already. And so he had his own tech company and was like, you know, how would you like to like work for me? And like, you could leave LA. I was like, dude, I'm out tomorrow. I mean, I'll hop in the car tomorrow and leave. And his company was headquartered in Florida. I'm from Florida, so it made sense. Packed my Kia Soul up and drove across the country back to Florida. But a stop that I made was here because we had a friend that lived here, my girlfriend and I. And it was her birthday. It was about this time, actually, in 2018, August 14th, 2018, we stopped here. And we had her birthday party here, which, I mean, first time in New Orleans, it's your birthday.
Right.
You're stoked.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's a huge vibration, right?
Yeah.
And so we had such a blast here. So much fun. And the people and the community here, not just in New Orleans, you know, in this area, the people here are so amazing compared to where I was in Los Angeles. Yeah. Whereas, like, you know, I swear, nobody makes eye contact in Los Angeles.
Of course, no. You're meeting up with 1,000 people a day. There's no, like, interpersonal connection.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. And if you tried, you were weird.
You were the weird one, yeah.
Like, why is he talking to us?
Whereas here, you walk down the street and meet somebody's cousin that you've, you know,
and that's your cousin now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so Miami, from my perspective and where I grew up in Miami, the people in Miami that I lived around, my neighborhood in Miami, is very similar to how the people are here. Okay. Community-wise and like community-oriented, it's very similar. And so when I was here for that short trip, man, I felt like I was home. You know, it felt very much like, this is nice. You know, I really like this. I want to be a part of this. We were planning on driving to Florida, setting up shop in Florida for a couple months to gather ourselves and move to Nashville. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Visited Nashville, hated Nashville. I hated Nashville. Nashville is perfect if like you need a weekend to get away and like just like consume alcoholic beverages is like the place to go.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like my perspective of Nashville. Yeah. And I didn't see any growth for me there. I didn't see it much different than Los Angeles in terms of like, you know, I was there for a week and I just didn't really like it. And I was compared to me being here in 3 days. And I loved everything about New Orleans. And we just decided then, this was in September or October of 2018, and we were like, in January, we're going to move to New Orleans, and that's just going to be what it is. And so we moved to Central City in New Orleans, and I love it. It's amazing. My neighbors are amazing people, so much history. Mm-hmm. And it's very like interesting to talk to them about the things that they've experienced, and especially this time of year when, hurricanes are coming or whatever.
Right.
Everybody's a little bit, from what I can gather, everybody's a little bit more, talkative about the history, right? History is all over here.
Yeah.
But around this time of year, what I've noticed is that, people they're hyper aware of it and the impacts that this time can have on them and their business and their family. We get hurricanes in Miami, too, but it's so different.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Well, so I think at the time of recording this, just last weekend was the anniversary of
Andrew. Oh, no, and Katrina.
Katrina, yeah.
That's right.
And so, it's been kind of top topic.
Yeah.
Word of mouth, because so many people were massively affected by everything that had happened, especially here in the Chalmette area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And with those couple of storms that were supposed to hit, a couple weeks ago, it was like
brought up some PTSD.
Oh man. I mean, and my neighbors in my area, are almost like they talk about it very interestingly, because they apparently didn't get a lot of bad flooding. Mm-hmm. But because everything else was shut down, they were definitely out of power and stuff. Their take on it is a little different. Mm-hmm. But and I always am very I love talking to them about it and hearing their the takes on it, because as horrible as it was, they managed to somehow find positives. Mm-hmm. And they managed to somehow find the good that came of it, and the camaraderie, and then being a good neighbor and being a good person, and what that meant for each other, because they didn't think that they had anything else or anybody else, and everybody helped each other. From what I understand, people helped each other more so than ever. And it's just, I love to be a part of a community like that, because it's all about, for me, it's just about how can I help? My neighbors help me every day.
Yeah.
And I always strive to help my neighbors every day, because, it's almost
community.
It's community.
You're building that community.
You're building that community.
Being part of that community, which is, the basis of life, right?
Yep.
It's all about experiences and relationships.
And it was I'll never forget, we moved in January, and this is my first Mardi Gras that year. And I had to work because my company's not based in New Orleans, so it wasn't a holiday. Yeah. And I begged my boss for a half day. I was like, dude, let me get off at 12 or 1. I need to experience this. I have to. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And so I opened my door at 1:00, and I live on Josephine, which is parallel to Jackson Avenue, which is where the Zulu crew rolls through on Mardi Gras Day. Mm-hmm. And so that area is so much fun, and it's huge crowds, and just a lot of excitement and good energy. And I opened my door, and I'm on a little bit, I think I have a 4-step stoop or something like that. And I open it, there's people, somehow there's 15 people on my 4 steps. It didn't make sense, right? I open the door, somebody hands me a bowl of gumbo and a shot of Hennessy. And they're just they the first thing they said was, "We heard it's your first Mardi Gras." And I was like, how do you beat that?
It's family.
It's family.
Yeah.
And then I met just in this 10-minute sequence, I met people that had lived in this street decades ago, and people that had to move out, and people that were there from Katrina before that, and the history of this street and this neighborhood, and what it meant to them and their family, and how they live here, but they come back here because it's family here. Hearing those stories about where I was so lucky enough to live and be a part of now, on this street, on this corner, it was just it was so powerful. Yeah. It was the best. It was one of the best days I had at the time, had ever had. It was crazy. Coming off of such a bad experience in LA, and being kind of not knowing where we were going to end up.
It's whiplash.
Whiplash.
Yeah.
Polar opposites. And I knew that I had made the right decision.
Yeah.
That's kind of a long explanation and a long story.
No, I can respect it.
But that's how we ended up here.
You're describing who you are.
Yeah.
And what brought you here and what you value.
Yeah.
And that's all important, especially when you're building relationships with people.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Those are the things that matter.
And I think about my neighbors, when I think about the relationships that I build with even like my clients, like I think, and it's such a weird thing. All my neighbors are a little like they're older than I am, and I think of them as like my aunts and my uncles and like, you know, mother figures, father figures. Like when I talk to a client, I think like, you know, is the way that I handle this situation gonna would they be proud? Would my neighbors be proud of the way that I talk to their neighbors? You know, and that's how I try and like negotiate like contracts, proposals, you know, doing pro bono work, even like, you know, doing like free consultations and like that. Like, would my neighbor Carl like would he respect this?
Yeah.
Would he be glad that I did this? Is this the right thing to do?
Yeah.
I think the answer sometimes, more often than not, is yes.
I would I'm pretty confident in saying in every circumstance, it's a yes. It's a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I have learned more about people and community and family and business living here and talking to people here.
Yeah.
And like changing the way that I think about things and operate. And it has helped me for the better in all my aspects, for how I deal with my personal family, for how I deal with my friends outside of New Orleans and Louisiana in general, how I talk to my neighbors and people that I interact with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And especially from a business perspective too. And people are really receptive to that. I feel like we need to like, there's so much like, you know, divide, you know, all over.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just have to just understand each other more.
Yeah. Compassion.
Yeah. And that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And people are very receptive to that.
Yeah.
And they remember that too.
Definitely.
Yeah. New Orleans, man. Louisiana.
Yeah. The South.
That's right.
It was nice, like actually sitting down and talking to you. I know we had a long conversation when we first met up.
Right.
This was cool.
Yeah.
We'll get you back on the show.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Awesome.